All right, got a great video here for you today, so let's get into it. Indiana takes on Purdue, 2 o'clock Eastern tip-off on Saturday, March 5th, 2022. Purdue's minus 9.5 with the total at 141. We're 2-0 in our last two board member tier package bets on Pt.2. And the link for today's board member tier package bet is in the description section below. We're also hitting at 71% our last 14 personal bets in that very same package. We currently have over 835 members who are signed up and active on my website right now. And if you want to check out my current personal record for free, you can do that right now by going to the homepage on Pt.2. Now, for those who are interested in signing up for my board member tier, just keep in mind that not only are you going to get access to today's board member tier package bet itself, you're also going to get full access to every single package that I offer on that website all the way through the end of March. It's an all-inclusive membership. But if you're not signed up for that package, or if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'll explain a little bit more about it in just a moment. But before we go ahead and move on, just want to take a quick time out and welcome you to the video. My name is Brock Page, and I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. I also sell my personal bets on Pt.2, and I have packages on that website starting at just $1.99. Now, the purpose of these YouTube videos is to provide you with free informational sports betting content, and it's also designed to generate interest in signing up for a membership on my website. Now, you may be wondering what the difference is between what I do here on YouTube and what I do on my website. Well, what I do here on YouTube is I'll handicap the entire slate of games in any given sport, side and total. What I do on my website is, well, I actually share with you which one of these free YouTube picks on my channel that I'm actually betting on personally. When it comes to this Indiana-Purdue game, it's actually the Boilermakers who've been virtually unbeatable at home this season. Purdue's currently 15-1 straight up at the Mackey Arena, and they're also amongst the best offensive teams in the entire country. Now, Purdue's averaging 86 points a game in front of their home fans, and they're drilling nearly 42% of their three-pointers on their home court this season. Matter of fact, the Boilermakers are currently in the top 3 in the country in both shooting the three ball and offensive field goal percentage. And of course, those particular factors, well, you can thank guys like Zach Edey, who's making 68% of his field goals, and he's also scoring nearly 15 points a game. Meanwhile, Jaden Ivey, he's scoring over 17 points a game himself, along with 4 boards and 3 assists. Now, when it comes to defensive play in this one, Purdue's currently in the top 3 in the nation in defensive rebounding per contest. They're taking on an Indiana team who wins only 30% of their road games. They covered the number in only 2 contests away from home this year. Now, when it comes to head-to-head meetings between these two teams, the Hoosiers have been getting pummeled by Purdue in recent years. They're just 1-9 straight up in their last 10 games against Purdue. They averaged only 61 points a game in those meetings. And as far as this year's concerned, well, the Hoosiers really just haven't been good enough defensively. They're allowing 74 points a game on the road, and they're also having a tough time grabbing defensive boards when traveling. Now, when it comes to the injury report, Lander and Galloway are questionable for the Hoosiers. Meanwhile, for Purdue on the other side of things, Sasha Stevanovic is questionable to play as well. Now, total-wise, Purdue's 10-6 to the over on their home court. Meanwhile, Indiana on the other side of things, they've gone 60% to the over in their last 10 on the road. I'm going to lean toward Purdue minus 9.5 in the over 141. Next contest, a little SEC action. I'm talking about Kentucky versus Florida, 2 o'clock Eastern start time. Kentucky's minus 5, totals 141.5. But despite being favored by a couple of buckets in this one, Kentucky failed to cover in 6 out of their last 9 ball games. And they're also playing just .500 basketball on the road. And speaking of those road games, Kentucky's covering in only 30% of their contests away from their home court. And they're also making only 32% of their three-pointers in that very same category. Now they're taking on a Florida team who's really tough to score against in Gainesville. The Gators are currently allowing only 62 points per contest at the O'Connell Center. And in addition to that, they're currently in the top 25 in the country in guarding the three ball at home. Now, scoring-wise, when it comes to offensive production, Colin Castleton's averaging over 16 points a game, along with 9 rebounds and 2.5 blocks. Meanwhile, Ty Appleby scoring 11 points a game himself, along with 2 boards and 3 assists. And when the Gators play in their own building, they're actually 12-4 straight up in those ball games. Now, total-wise, Florida saw nearly 70% of those home games I just mentioned fall under the posted number. Meanwhile, Kentucky, on the other side of things, they went 7-3 to the under in their last 10 on the road themselves. I'm going to lean toward Florida +5 in the under 141.5. Next matchup I have for you, it is going to be Seton Hall versus Creighton, and that's going to be a 2:30 p.m. Eastern start time. Creighton's -1 at home, totals 135.5. Now the Creighton Blue Jays are 11-3 straight up at home this year, and they've lost just 2 games since January 29th. Now what the Blue Jays do well is shooting from the field. These guys are consistently making 48% of their field goals in front of their home fans this season. Ryan Kalkbrenner is making 64% of his field goals. He's also averaging 12.5 points a game. Meanwhile, Ryan Hawkins is scoring over 14 points per contest himself, along with 7 rebounds. When it comes to defensive play in this one, Creighton's limiting their competition to just 39% shooting from the field, just because of their big bodies. Now they're taking on a Seton Hall team who plays just .500 basketball on the road this year. And they've also had a real tough time slowing down Creighton in recent meetings. As a matter of fact, the Pirates are giving up nearly 78 points a game in their last 10 head-to-head contests against the Blue Jays. That type of defensive effort is not going to get the job done here today. And I'll tell you what, if that isn't bad enough, Seton Hall is currently making only 40% of their field goals on the road this season. Now, total-wise, Seton Hall saw overs recently against the likes of Villanova and Xavier twice. Meanwhile, Creighton went 4-3 to the over in their last 7 themselves. I'm going to lean toward Creighton -1 in the over 135.5. Next ball game, it is going to be Texas Tech versus Oklahoma State. And that's going to be a 3 o'clock Eastern start time. Texas Tech is -3, totals 140.5. But as good as the Red Raiders have been here this season, these guys have actually done a bad job of scoring on the road. Now, not only has this team lost 6 of 9 when traveling this year, they averaged only 61 points per contest in those road games. And even worse than that, Texas Tech is shooting a pitiful 23% from 3 land away from home. Now they're taking on an Oklahoma State team who recently beat the likes of Iowa State, Kansas State, and West Virginia. Matter of fact, Oklahoma State held Iowa State to just a ridiculous 36 total points in that victory. So once again, Oklahoma State, they held the Cyclones to just 36 total points in that victory. Just total defensive domination in that one. And no real surprise here. What Oklahoma State does best is, well, they play defense. These guys are currently in the top 20 in the nation in defensive field goal percentage. And, well, they don't give up many points on their home court. Now, scoring-wise, when it comes to offensive production, Avery Arn Anderson is scoring over a dozen points a game, along with 3 boards and a couple assists. Meanwhile, Bryce Thompson's averaging double-digit points a game himself, along with a couple of rebounds. Now, when it comes to head-to-head meetings, Oklahoma State covered the number in 7 out of their last 10 games against Texas Tech. When it comes to the injury report in this one, the Cowboys are mostly healthy going into today's matchup. Meanwhile, for Texas Tech, McCullough, Bacho, and Calhoun, they are questionable for them. Now, total-wise, 6 out of Texas Tech's Last 9 road games fell under the posted number. They also saw unders recently against the likes of Oklahoma, Texas, and West Virginia. Meanwhile, Oklahoma State, on the other side of things, they went 3-0 to the under in their last 3 themselves, 60% to the under in all of their home games. I'm going to lean toward Oklahoma State +3 and the under 140.5. Next matchup, it is going to be Oklahoma versus Kansas State. And that is going to be a 4 o'clock Eastern start time. Kansas State's -2.5, totals 132. Now, K-State has played some terrific defense at home this year. Not only are these guys in the top 20 in guarding the 3 ball, they're also limiting their competition to just 63 points a game in their own building. Now, offensively, Nigel Pack is scoring over 17.5 points per contest, along with 3 rebounds and a couple assists. Now, Pack's also been brilliant shooting from downtown. The guard is currently making 44% of his 3-pointers this year. Meanwhile, Marquise Noel is averaging over a dozen points a game himself, along with 3.5 boards and 5 assists. Now, they're taking on an Oklahoma team who really doesn't score a lot on the road. OU's averaging just 64 points a game away from their home court, and they're winning only 20% of their road games for the entire year. Now, when it comes to offensive rebounding, these guys are amongst the worst in the Big 12 in offensive boards per contest. When it comes to the total in this one, OU saw their last 3 straight fall under the posted number. They also went 70% to the under in their last 10 meetings with Kansas State. So if you're into historical trends, you certainly want to think about that one there. Matter of fact, the Wildcats are holding Oklahoma to just 67 points a game in their last 10 head-to-head contests. I'm going to lean toward Kansas State -2.5 and the under 132. Next ball game, it is going to be Texas versus Kansas, 4 p.m. Eastern start time. Kansas is -6.5, totals 137. Now the Jayhawks are 14-1 at the Allen Fieldhouse, and they're averaging 81 points a game there. Ochai Agbaji is averaging over 20 points per contest, along with 5 rebounds and 42% shooting from beyond the arc. Meanwhile, Christian Braun scoring 15 points a game himself, along with 6 boards and 2 assists. Now, Kansas is in the top 25 in scoring on average per contest. They also find themselves in the top 15 in the nation in shooting from the field. They're taking on a Texas team who wins only 40% of their road games. They also failed to cover the point spread in 5 out of their last 6. Now, offensively, the Longhorns really aren't doing enough to compete with these top-tier programs. They're averaging only 68 points per contest, and they're shooting only 31% from 3-land. Now, total-wise, Texas is 80% to the over in all of their road games this year. They also saw 6 out of their last 10 meetings with Kansas get over the line. Meanwhile, the Jayhawks, on the other side of things, they are 60% to the over at the Allen Fieldhouse this year. I'm going to lean toward Kansas -6.5 in the over 137. Next ball game, it is going to be Iowa State versus Baylor. And that's going to be a 6 p.m. Eastern start time. Baylor is -12.5 with the total at 133. And even though second leading scorer L.J. Cryer is questionable to play here today for the Bears, this is a Baylor team who wins a lot of their contests at home, and they're really energized by their defensive play. The Bears are currently 14-2 straight up on their home court, and they're actually limiting their competition to just 59 points a game there. Meanwhile, offensively, Adam Flagler, he's dropping over 13.5 points a game, along with 2 rebounds and 40% shooting from 3-land. Meanwhile, James Akinjo, he's averaging 13 points per contest himself, along with 2 boards and 5 assists. And speaking of scoring, Baylor's averaging 80 points a game in the Farrell Center. They're also making nearly 50% of their field goals in that very building. Now, the Bears are taking on an Iowa State team who actually has a losing record on the road this season. And in addition to that, they failed to cover the point spread in 6 out of their last 9 ball games. Now, the Cyclones are having a pretty tough time offensively when they're traveling. They're scoring only 66 points per contest away from home this year, and they're also amongst the worst in the Big 12 in road offensive rebounding. Now, when it comes to head-to-head meetings between these two squads, Iowa State lost 8 out of their last 10 games against Baylor. When it comes to the total in this one, Iowa State saw unders recently with the likes of Oklahoma State, TCU, and Texas. Meanwhile, Baylor saw 5 out of their last 8 fall under the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Baylor Bears, minus 12.5, and the under 133. All right, next ball game. It is going to be UNC versus Duke, 6 p.m. Eastern start time. Duke's minus 11.5 with the total at 153. But as good as Duke's been this season, well, I'll tell you what, this is an absurdly large number for this type of rivalry game. Now, to start, the Blue Devils failed to cover in 7 out of their last 10 meetings with the Tar Heels. So when it comes to head-to-head matchups, looks like North Carolina's had the they've had the upper hand with regard to the number. Now, Duke's also allowing 80 points per contest in their last 10 head-to-head meetings with UNC. So Duke not playing all that well defensively against the Tar Heels. Now, secondly, the Blue Devils failed to cover more recently against the likes of Virginia, Wake Forest, and Boston College. So even though these guys win a lot of games, they really haven't been covering all that much as of late. Now, they're going up against a UNC program who won their last 4 straight themselves, and they successfully covered the point spread in 7 out of their last 10. Now, North Carolina's also been very good on the road this season. They have a 700 win percentage as the official road team, and they're also in the top 15 in the nation in road scoring per contest. Armando Bacot, he's scoring 16 points a game along with 12 rebounds per contest. Meanwhile, Caleb Love, he's scoring 15.5 points a game himself, along with 3 rebounds and 3 assists. Now, the Tar Heels are averaging nearly 79 points a game on the road, and they're also in the top 15 in road offensive rebounding. Now, total-wise, UNC's 70% to the over as the official road team, 10-3 to the over in all of their contests away from home. Meanwhile, Duke saw 6 out of their last 9 get over the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward UNC plus 11.5, keeping this one close in the over 153. Next ball game, another one should be a good matchup here. I'm talking about USC versus UCLA. That's going to be a 10 o'clock Eastern tip-off. The UCLA Bruins are minus 7.5, totals 136. But as good as USC's been on the other side of things, especially on the road, it's actually UCLA who's got the hot hand on their home court. The Bruins are 13-1 straight up at the Pauley Pavilion, and they're scoring 82 points a game there. Johnny Juzang's averaging 17 points per contest, along with 4 rebounds. Meanwhile, Jaime Jaquez is scoring over 12 points a game himself, along with 5 rebounds and a couple assists. Now, when it comes to defensive play, the Bruins are very tough to score against when they're home. UCLA is allowing only 62 points a game as the official home team. And they're also limiting their competition to only 39% shooting from the field there. They're taking on a USC team who's had some significant problems covering the number here recently. Now, USC failed to cover in 4 out of their last 5 ball games, and they also went just 30% against the spread in their last 10. Now, the Trojans have also had some difficulty shooting the basketball away from home this year. USC's making just 32% of their three-pointers on the road, and they're also drilling just 63% of their free throws in that same category. These guys really bad shooting from the stripe when they travel. Now, total-wise, USC did see their last 3 straight get over the line, 5-2 to the over in their last 7. Meanwhile, the Bruins are 64% to the over as the official home team. I'm going to lean toward UCLA, minus 7.5, and the over 136. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for the show. It is going to be BYU versus San Francisco. That's going to be a 10:30 Eastern start time. The San Francisco Dons are -3, totals 144. Now, the Dons are scoring 81 points a game at home this year, and they're doing a real nice job grabbing offensive rebounds. Yahweh Masalski is averaging nearly double-digit rebounds a game, along with 13 points. Meanwhile, Jamari Bouye scoring 17 points a game himself, along with 5 rebounds and nearly 40% shooting from three-land. The Dons are currently 13-4 straight up at home. They're doing a great job defending the three-pointer this year as well. They're taking on a BYU team who failed to cover in 7 out of their last 10 ball games, and they also have themselves a losing record against the point spread on the road. Now, the Cougs have failed to cover in 5 out of their last 7 conference ball games away from home this year. When it comes to the total, 8 out of the Cougs' last 11 contests when traveling got over the line. They're also giving up 73 points a game in their last 10 meetings with San Francisco. Meanwhile, the Dons are 11-5 to the over in their last 16 at home. I'm going to lean towards San Francisco -3. And the over 144. And with that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Pt.2. Now, if you guys do end up getting a membership here today on my website, just keep in mind you're going to get billed the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. I always tell folks in every single video, the earlier in the month you sign up, the better. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, guys, happy Saturday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at Brockpage.com.